Currently Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. It's 7:33 a.m. This is for purposes of documentation of when I'm capturing this video, which is additional documentation. This is documentation which is relevant to what is federal stalking, criminal surveillance on devices. Surveillance in violation of your privacy rights, of your Fourth Amendment search rights, that the entities engage in, for example, while they're stalking by planes at the Ontario Town Square, like what is happening now. This is ongoing surveillance while I am engaged in prosecuting the government for surveillance. This is also relevant to surveillance that's underway inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, where the people of the state are engaged in the surveillance that you hear the City of Ontario maintaining. The OVITT Family Community Library is maintaining surveillance inside of that venue, not a private business, not a business that is constitutionally underway or maintained by the City of Ontario. The City of Ontario is a sex offender. As you hear that plane activity, that is criminal conduct by not only the airlines, but the airport, and literally a demon that is recognized as a third party that's engaging in criminal surveillance. So you're down to that level of detail at the prosecution of the state. But I want to be clear, that's plane activity, by the way, at 7:34 a.m. What I'm documenting is federal stalking, and federal stalking is proven through what is tampering with documentation on my device, and that is only happening when you are aware of what is being captured on my device, which is pursuant to what is an unlawful search, what is invasion of my privacy for no legitimate purpose. This is pursuant to the ongoing surveillance that the City of Ontario is engaged in, that the gang stalker Paul Leon of some sort of fake mayor, some gang stalking mayor is engaged in, what the gang stalking governor Gavin Newsom is engaged in, while this system of public corruption, while the inhumane sexual violence, while the population is sharing in not only surveillance, which is stalking as a population, but engaging in what is domestic terrorism, as they are practicing what is a system of organized crime, murdering the targeted individual that they cannot contain, that they cannot keep under surveillance with the cooperation of that targeted individual. In other words, you can't successfully traffic them, you can't successfully threaten them, you can't blackmail them, you can't oppress them to the extent to where they will just give in or even acquiesce and become one of whatever these demons call themselves. They're nothing other than predators and murderers. The entities engaged in gang stalking. So this is relevant to what the OVITT Family Community Library is indeed engaged in. And so what I'm documenting right here on the bottom represents what I captured. As you can tell, I captured a picture of my receipt. On September 19, 2025, I completed a transaction at third-party facilitating venue Andy's Burgers at 310 East Hope Boulevard, and I took a picture of that receipt. And thankfully, that is showing the accurate time and date because a product of federal stalking, monitoring, and also monitoring by a government that's engaging in surveillance and is seeking to obstruct justice. And also is further incriminating the very demons that are documented while you are monitoring my device and then seeking to tamper with the information so that their identity can be concealed. And that's what this is a state actor, Dulce. She's gang stalking inside of the library on September 19th. 2025, not August 7th, 2025, like the entity engaged in. And so what you see this timestamp, this is not true with regard to what I'm documenting, what I actually engaged in, or when I actually captured a picture of my receipt at the OVITT Family Community Library that opened at 10 a.m. And I am taking pictures of not only my receipt that day, this is pictures that I'm taking that I had to retake because the entity, after I took pictures of Dulce, who's a demon-possessed gang stalker, she's engaged in harassing me. She's doing so with the people of the state, demons, puppets that are sitting around, studying their devices, monitoring with the demons that are both as patrons and demons that are both as employees. They are all engaged in what is monitoring. That's why Engineer Light fills the OVITT Family Community Library. That's why the Ontario International Airport is engaged in what is criminal surveillance by aircraft. That's why the City of Ontario is maintaining criminal surveillance by helicopter and the state's own planes. That's why the entity keeps the fake sun over the OVITT Family Community Library, as I've documented, for over 10 to 12 hours. That's why the entity is engaged in what is stalking with impossible light activity, both inside the OVITT Family Community Library and outside the OVITT Family Community Library. This is the entity that's engaged in what is kidnapping. That's why the entity is committed what is the ongoing evidence of targeting. The entity that is engaged in what is malicious assertions while they're keeping you under surveillance with the intent to obstruct justice, while they are indeed targeting you. This is why the OVITT Family Community Library has engaged in, committed all of that that I just referenced. And what I documented on September 19th is on the top, and what I documented on September 19th is also on the bottom. However, the entity on September 19th engaged in what is meddling with my device, and that is tampering with the date that I documented. And the effect of that is that in my, as you can see here, in my pictures that are taken there in chronological order. So on the 19th, I couldn't find these pictures that I took on September 19th of this demon, Dolce, who was crouched on the opposite side. I'm sitting at station number 1, and Dolce is monitoring me. Dolce is a psychopath. Dolce is demon possessed. And Dolce is, again, with regard to her status, is a state actor engaging in criminal surveillance. She's also a violent sex offender monitoring my vagina in the bathroom of the OVITT Family Community Library, where she is engaged in gang stalking by place of employment. This is relevant to what is federal prison. She's also subject to federal prison because she is gang stalking, and that is also proven because the entity went to the extent to hide her identity, hide her criminal engagement, and monitoring me by tampering with the date and my device. Okay, I actually took her picture on the 19th, and when I found that this picture on the bottom was missing, these are the pictures that I took on September 19th, because I went right around the corner to go get an image of the demon that was monitoring me, harassing me, and psychologically torturing. That is stalking you with audible noise. And Dolce is working in impossible light activity. She has multiple shadows on the ground while the people of the state walk around. While these demons open and close this administrative door, they do so pursuant to what I do as I do it. They're monitoring, and they're demons, and those are psychopaths that are also sex offenders monitoring my vagina. All right, they're engaging in the sex offense at an inhumane level. The government is monitoring my vagina. The OVITT Family Community Library, Dolce, and every other gang stalker is monitoring my vagina as it's occurring inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, a sex offender. And the government's going to be prosecuted for that. The government that's engaged in sexual violence, the federal government, the state government, and officials like Jason Isaac Fields that are engaging in what is monitoring and obsessing over my vagina while engaging in what is conspiring my murder, while thousands of people are sharing in that obsession and that sexual violence. This is why Dolce is monitoring me inside of the library and knows what I'm doing as a demon. Is stacking these DVDs on the shelf at the same time that I make any minor move, at the same time that I operate my cell phone. And she also knew that I was documenting her, and that's also why the entity engaged in this, which is tampering with my evidence. First of all, it's legally relevant that it's evidence, it's documentation, but tampering with what is the timestamp, and that's what was changed. Okay, this is the true time at the top. This is the true time, and this is the pictures that I went back and I took a Dolce again after I found that the original ones that I took of her gang stalking me inside of the library were what I thought deleted. Okay, but it is tantamount to deleting because it is not in the place where it should be when I went to upload it. Why are you doing that? Because you want it to be, you don't want it to be uploaded as evidence. The demon possessed, they want to monitor my vagina. They want to stalk and be demons and engage in gang stalking, but they don't want you to see their face. They don't want you to know that they're a part of it. And those are the exact ones that are going to prison. Okay, the entity is engaging in this, and this is criminal obstruction of justice that Dolce is engaged in. And Dolce is doing that with the people of the state. Dolce is doing that with the city of Ontario. Dolce is doing that with the federal government. Okay, this demon is engaged in what is gang stalking as well. Should not be aware, but is very much aware of the fact that she's being documented. These are demons, and this is the government, and they know very well that I took a picture, and that's why the entity went behind in my device, unbeknownst to me, and these pictures disappeared, and they disappeared by changing the date. And so while I'm examining my phone this morning, September 24, 2025, I'm finding pictures that I took September 19th, 2025, and they are dated inaccurately. And that is the entity that is aware and seeking to suppress evidence that I'm capturing of these demons gang stalking. Now, the OVITT Family Community Library put these two new faces. I'd never seen these two demons before. They put them at entry at the time of open at the desk where I go typically to check out a reservation room. They're monitoring. All right, and then the entity goes behind and removes changes the time that they're present in order that I would not be able to find it in my device and I wouldn't upload it for the day. This is evidence of Title 18 federal stalking under 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. This is federal stalking. This is the product of surveillance that is underway on your devices, that is underway on the internet. The entity that is engaging in surveillance, that is gang stalking, that is targeting for a criminal purpose of murder, theft, a theft of your identity. The entity that wants to steal your identity is going to get rid of you by either kidnapping or murdering you, okay, or both. This is the entity that's aware of what is being documented, and this is relevant to federal prison. OVITT Family Community Library employees and patrons are going to prison for kidnapping. They're going to prison for obstruction of justice, and they're going to prison for what is ongoing harassment and terrorism at an inhumane level. This is years of this particular venue monitoring with the airport that you hear gang stalking. The state of California has provided evidence against the OVITT Family Community Library, as you will prosecute that entire entity with the criminal activity that it is engaging in as an entire act, as an entire cooperative system. Okay, so you're going to prosecute them for what the Ontario Police Department is doing, that they're sharing in, under the fake sun that they're all sharing in, with the airport that is sharing in that, with the entity that is engaging in what is monitoring in the bathroom, with the demons that are stalking by helicopter, stalking with light activity inside and outside of the venue. This is how you're going to prosecute. And then the entity's engaging in this, tampering with my evidence that it knows is being in real time accumulated. And that's a federal no-no as well. Literally, I want to be clear, the demons that they call themselves protecting will go to federal prison for that. You're going to federal prison for it. So I just want to be clear, this is the entity that's engaging in that. This is the true date. I captured it on September 19th. The entity tampered with my evidence, changed it to August 7th, 4:55 a.m. Obviously, the library isn't even open at 4:55 a.m. And this is representing what is the true time that I captured this documentation, which is what you'll see here, September 19th. And that's why you see up here, after the entity removed my evidence, I took more pictures of the same sex offender, Dulce, who was engaged in gang stalking as an employee at that venue. Everything that they're doing is under the fake sun and in concert with the state that's maintaining massive surveillance by traffic, by aircraft, by placement of establishment. Wells Fargo is gang stalking. All of the businesses around the apartment complexes, everything, surveillance is underway by any and every one. And OVITT Family Community Library is concentrating all of that, and it is cooperatively engaging in that inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. And it includes federal stalking for the purpose of obstruction of justice, to avoid being identified. And what happens when that happens is that you get even more of an up-close, personal means of identifying you and prosecuting you for that. Dulce is responsible, so is the city, so is the state. The feds are responsible, but Dulce in particular, she's the one that's going to go to federal prison, in addition to whoever else is responsible for it. And the ordinary target individual doesn't bear that burden. You're going to document, and the government that thinks that it's avoiding anything, or the government that thinks that it's stopping something, that's, first of all, the entity is going to be subject to prison. So the person you think you're protecting is the person that's going to serve time for it. Not only that, the government is going to prosecute with regard to tampering with your devices, and the ordinary target individual doesn't have to worry about that part. But nonetheless, you do your documentation, okay? It is currently 7:45 a.m. This is documentation that I'm going to upload to September 19th, and that's why the date will reflect August 7th. But that's providence, okay? Because it's evidence that was tampered with, and it's evidence against the city of Ontario, against the entity that is indeed, I have already proven it. This is more evidence proving the same, that the entity is engaged in surveillance. The entity is engaged in what is obstruction of justice, meaning you're harassing and terrorizing me by helicopter with knowledge of the fact that you're being documented. You're going to prison for that. You're engaged in harassment and while you're being documented, stalking and harassing by commercial planes, you are also aware of it based on the nature of the crime of surveillance, and you engage in more of it with that knowledge. You're going to prison for that. This is what the entity is going to also be committed for, because that is demented behavior for the purpose of what is murder and kidnapping. And this entire entity is engaged in what is, again, thousands of people that are interested in my physical position in the bathroom, the way that my genitalia looks when I'm bending over, what is it that I'm thinking about while I'm relieving myself in the bathroom, ongoing monitoring of my vagina and all my genitalia that is between my legs while I'm wiping myself. This is the fascination that is sexually perverted and demented. It is a level of addiction and obsession by demons, okay? And that is shared by those who are actual homosexuals, like Dulce and the demons that are monitoring me. This is shared, it's identical, because they're demon possessed. And this is shared by Jason Isaac Fields with Dulce. It's shared by Tracy Banks with Dulce. It's shared by Michael Lorenz with Dulce, Alan D. Wapner with Dulce. They have the same condition. They're sharing in the same pattern of conduct by the masses that are engaging in surveillance on the roads and the highways. All of them are engaged in what is a sex offense that is inhumane. Monitoring Erica Spencer's vagina, having knowledge about what my vagina looks like. what it is that I am doing in the bathroom at the moment that I'm doing it. This is a population of sex offenders, and people like Jason Isaac Fields are not getting out of federal prison for it and still engaging in it. Jason Isaac Fields is still engaged in that sexual violence. He's a violent sex offender. This is a rapist, and this is a murderer, and this is a corrupt official who's never going to be in my presence. And this is relevant to appreciating the unlawful threat that the federal government poses. The federal government that has been engaged in targeting and now is proven as such by the criminal conduct literally of the state and the city of Ontario. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is the entity that engages in obstruction of justice with the intent to commit murder and conceal it. Hiding defendants, concealing evidence. Okay, it goes beyond just pictures. It goes with regard to framing the target individual for crimes that they didn't commit. This goes into what is taking out loans in their name when they've never taken out said loans. And then those demons going in court and bearing false witness. This is what this evidence is showing the character of that entity. The entity that's stalking by aircraft on the roads and the highways, by every establishment, and by every facility and venue where the people of the state live. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:48 a.m. on September 24, 2025.